Hey Sharks fans, today we have an interesting topic to talk about: Martin Jones and the expansion draft. How will this all work out? Or will Jones be able to save himself before a possible acquisition by the Seattle Kraken for next year's expansion draft? Today we cover that here on the Seals and Teal. The Seals and Teal, an SJ Sharks podcast with your host, Lars Yonk. Martin Jones. Yes, Martin Jones. Martin Jones has been the talk about for the last 2 seasons from Sharks fans. Do we want to get rid of Martin Jones? How bad, and what's it gonna take? Personally, for me, look, I love Martin Jones. I really loved him when he first came to San Jose. But it's very unfortunate now because he's gone on the decline. Now, I still have some hope that Jones can rebound for next season, but with a very high chance that he won't. He's going to have to be dealt because all that cap he is carrying is going to be so much dead weight for the team going forward. Unless, of course, we totally rebuild and his contract doesn't mean anything to us. So I wanted to get in today to the topic about Martin Jones and what it's going to take for him to go to Seattle in the expansion draft. But before we do so, I just wanted to go over everything going on in the league right now with the New York Islanders, Tampa Bay. It's been a very great series so far for Tampa Bay. If you saw the last game, Game 2, Nikita Kucherov, who's had a really great playoff so far, scoring with 7.8 seconds left in the game to take the 2-0 series lead for Tampa. And then yesterday, so happy to see Dallas Stars win against the Golden Knights. Radulov, what a shot by him. And it's just great to see that he's stepping up now for the team. And you just really hope, come on Dallas, just 2 more wins, just beat those Golden Knights. You've got a whole entire league behind you. We want to see, a good final that doesn't involve Vegas. In terms of anything else, the league is supposed to have the virtual draft on October 6th through 7th, so hopefully the Sharks be able to get a really good prospect going forward. I do have a list of prospects I'd like to see the Sharks acquire, but other than that, let's get into this episode. What's it going to take for Martin Jones to go to Seattle? Now that's going to be one of the big questions because here's the 3 scenarios right now. Either Martin Jones stays with us in the long run and we just have to deal with it. Number 2, we have to trade him, whether it's Seattle in the expansion draft or somewhere else. But that's going to be really tough because we're going to have to retain some salary. And that can be up to 50% with his contract. And on top of that, we'll probably have to give up a player for him to do so. Last but not least, a buyout. And this, unfortunately, as easy as it sounds, it would actually affect the Sharks later on. I was actually very fortunate enough to get from one of the fans in our fan group, Ryan Bartlett. Thank you so much again for sending these stats when I asked the questions. Buying out Jones' contract will result in double in 8 years, instead of remaining 4 years. So Jones' initial cap, if we are to buy him out, drops from his $5.75 million to $2.875 million in that first season of the buyout. It will then go to $1.875, and then it's just going to grow from there. $2.375 million, $2.875 million, and it's just going to grow and grow and grow. The thing is, the Sharks will be saving, yes, $2 to $3 million of cap space. The problem is that cap weight that Jones will have if we were to buy him out will drag on long. So it could be up to $2 to $3 million at times. And we just got off the Paul Martin buyout, and that wasn't really fun. But finally we're done with that, and I just don't see a buyout with Martin Jones happening unless it's just really that bad and we have to get rid of him. Now going on to the expansion draft, we have already a good idea of who's going to be protected. Logan Couture, captain, of course, gotta protect him. Tomas Hertl, no doubt about it. Timo Meier, Evander Kane, Erik Karlsson. I know some fans are saying, oh, we got to leave him exposed in the draft. Nope, can't do that. Under his no movement clause, he has to be protected. And this goes with Marc-Edouard Vlasic as well. We'd also need to protect a young defenseman in Mario Ferraro, possibly Ryan Merkley if he ever comes up. A goalie if we do have another option instead of Martin Jones. Maybe another prospect. And another player. So about 10 players. I think that's how it is with Seattle in terms of the expansion draft rules. You get to protect 10 players. Now you're probably wondering, where's Brent Burns? Now this is something I want to cover in another episode. Why we're gonna have to trade Brent Burns eventually before this upcoming expansion draft. I love Burns. He's been amazing in San Jose. I mean, he's really the face of the defense. But unfortunately, with his cap at $8 million per season, and that's going to go until he's 41, he's one of the only 3 top defensemen from the Sharks that has a limited movement clause. So he can be dealt, but it would only be up to 3 teams. So if the Sharks had to eat up a bit of his salary in a trade, that's probably what we're going to have to do. The thing is right now also with the Sharks is all about trying to clear up some cap space because that's one of the big issues. Doing that with Burns would probably be the first step. As sad as it is, that's what it's going to be most likely. We're going to need to get some kind of value because if we expose him in the expansion draft, I don't think Seattle would have a problem taking him. I really don't. And they might even ask, hey, we'll take Burns off your hands, but you got to give us a pick and a player maybe. It's very possible. So that's something you have to consider. Can we try to trade him and get some value before the expansion draft? So it will allow us to go back to the topic of today, Martin Jones. So if Jones were to be selected by Seattle, I don't know if it means they automatically take on the full contract or they can ask for us to retain salary from Jones. We're most likely going to have to add another player to go with Jones to Seattle. And unfortunately, if Jones does not have a good season for 2020-2021, we'll have another player go with him to Seattle because we're going to need to have a new starter if he continues to play inconsistently. And I think, unfortunately, that player is going to be someone the Sharks really love, and that's Radim Šimik. Šimik, unfortunately, look, he's a great He's a great, stay-at-home defenseman with Burns paired up. But in this case, we're going to have to get rid of Jones somehow, and he is most likely the candidate. I wouldn't want to give up on Mario Ferraro because I see this guy being almost like the next Marc-Edouard Vlasic in terms of hardworking defenseman, shut down, and can adapt well to the new style of play in the NHL. He's someone you want to have for the long run, Mario Ferraro. Šimik as well, I would love for him to stay in San Jose. I mean, look, he's one of those young, solid defensemen we have. But unfortunately, to get rid of Jones, we're going to have to give something up. And that might involve a first or a second round pick, just for that cap hit. There is also the option of Kevin Labanc, but the problem is, if we were to sign him to another 1-year deal, and then re-sign him again, there's no way he could be taken by Seattle. Because there are rules about when you sign a free agent, then Seattle cannot take them. So that's going to be the tricky thing. Who's going to be exposed alongside Jones? And what's it going to take maybe for Seattle to take on Martin Jones' contract? Unfortunately, again, it looks like someone is going to have to go with Jones. I know it may sound easier than it really is, but it's sad. I wish, they could take on Jones, no problem. But nah. Just like Vegas, when they had their expansion draft, they were able to fleece some teams. For example, they took on Erik Haula. In exchange, Minnesota said, hey, thanks for taking Erik Haula. Here's Alex Tuch. Look how that turned out. There was also the deal in Anaheim, where they said, oh, please take Clayton Stoner. We want to protect Brandon Montour. In exchange, we'll give you Shea Theodore. And then going back, of course, this one is a stupid one to me, the Florida Panthers. They said, please take Jonathan Marchessault. We'll give you Riley Smith if you do. And when you look at that, you just are like, you just gave Vegas 2 players of their top line. Yeah, Florida must be kicking their heads right now for that. And then I think there was also one with William Karlsson. He was dealt to Vegas to take on the contract of David Clarkson. So you see, that's the thing with the expansion draft. You're going to have to, unfortunately, give up someone if you want them to select a specific someone. In this case, select Martin Jones. We'll give you this player or prospect and a pick maybe. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. That's how they know, the GMs. They're going to get something at least fair in return to take on maybe some dead weight of a contract or a player that they really don't want. And that's what Seattle's going to do. They're going to take the playbook right out of Vegas's hands and do something like that. Sharks fans, let me know what you think. As hard as it is, that's what the most likely scenario will be. Thanks again for tuning in, listening in. If you like what you hear, please like and subscribe. Give some feedback. I'm extremely excited to be doing this. And more Sharks talk will come soon here on the Seals and Teal podcast with your host, Lars Yonk. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you so much.